Hello, buonasera, buongiorno. It's Joe Weston. I'm Joe Weston, not it's Joe Weston. I'm Joe Weston. It's what is the date? It's March 11th, 2025, and we're here for our monthly global heart gathering. And I threw in a little Italian there. That's might be the extent of my Italian. I'm in Italy at the moment. I'm here for the month to promote my book, Fierce Civility, after being in the Netherlands for a month. And it's been quite a journey. Um, and it's good to be here. It's good to connect with familiar faces, with familiar hearts, with people who are joining us on the World Wide Web for this session, and those of us who have been in touch or are getting in touch in some ways who are connecting with us, not with us on the World Wide Web, but connecting, weaving their hearts in with ours. So it's a joy and an honor to be here, and it's always good to see familiar faces and new faces, of course, and share a little bit about what I'm doing and what's also on my mind and how this plays into the practice we've doing. As you know, for those of you who've been here regularly and for those of you who are coming here for the first time or are new, we've been gathering since 2000, I think 17, maybe 18. I can't tell. That's time is really doing a funny thing at the moment. Anyway, it's been a while since we've been doing this first weekly and now monthly. To hold space, to gather, to be in community together, to be bold and courageous and recognize that we truly believe that there is a transformational power of the heart. And what I mean by that is that when we can really cultivate the practices for us to tap into deeper levels of connection with our heart, it transcends the mundane. It transcends politics. It transcends economics. It transcends the argument you're having with your colleague that you've been having for 25 years and gets you back to a place of remembering who you are at your highest, which means connecting to your true humanity and remembering and connecting with the humanity of others. And that sounds like a abstract kind of what I call a Hallmark cardy kind of way of looking at things, and that there might be something sentimental in it. And of course, there is something sentimental in it. And it's been proven that it really does work, that there really is true power. And it's not just being kind and nice. And it's not, for those of you who know my TEDx talk, A Cure for Chronic Niceness. It's not being chronically nice. It's about really cultivating a deeper level of fierceness, of understanding that power, and understanding that even in your heart, that you have to use that power well. With great power comes great responsibility. And that, for those of you who understand my reference for Spider-Man, the movies Spider-Man 1 and 2, the original, with great power comes great responsibility. There's a lot of meaning in that. And there is a lot of power in that. And we have to be responsible with our power because we can harm with our power without even realizing we're doing it. But there's another take on the word responsibility, which we've been talking about. If you break it down, response ability, the ability to respond. As we cultivate our heart power, I'll speak for myself and I'll speak for those close in my community and some of you. When we realize the true nature of the heart and that it is a connective and it connects all of us, it helps us remember what is true, that we are all interconnected and interdependent, and that the idea that we are separate is a mental construct, is an illusion. When we fully understand that, not just some beings, not just the ones we like, not just the ones who happen to agree with us or have the same political views, but all beings, we're all interconnected and interdependent, that could take us into a deeper level of responsibility, of understanding our role in the world and our role in the cultivation of more of us waking up to that idea that we are all interconnected and interdependent, and that any viewpoints we have of others as being separate, that it's a mental construct. That doesn't mean we have to love everyone. That doesn't mean we have to let people walk all over us. And that's where this practice, we cultivate fierce compassion, not just love, not just compassion. Those are great. I say just love and compassion. But the concept of fierce compassion is understanding that responsibility and understanding that when you are truly in that place from your highest values, the enormous power you have. And I would say if we were to talk long enough and I were to ask a series of questions, you would come to moments in your life when you know you recognize that within yourself. When you have, if even for a moment, tapped into the depth of your own power uh, in a way that's different from brute force. As you know, that's the nature of my work, is helping us understand how true power is different from brute force. So in a sense, that's what we're cultivating here, and it's certainly what's up for us right now. And the practice is on a daily basis, we can use this practice that we do every time we gather to cultivate a deeper level of fierce compassion and resilience, which is what this time needs of us so desperately. Uh, and that is the essence of what we're doing here, is this idea of understanding who are we as midwives in this time, that we're midwives for the dying, and we're seeing a system that is dying away, and a system that has been emerging, and how do we create space? And the beauty of, as I say always, of a midwife is they're engaged, they're fully engaged, they're ready to, with fierceness, jump in and be whoever they need to be to make sure this process of giving birth um, does so in a healthy, peaceful way. Yet they're not part of the painful process. They're holding a objective space. Objectivity doesn't mean separate from or detached from. It simply means that you can be objective and stay connected and engage with what's happening, an emotional connection and involvement, at the same time not get caught up in the drama and in the subjectivity. And I'm not saying that's easy. And that's why we started in 2017, to prepare us for this time. And it's a practice. And I don't, and as many people many of you follow beautiful practices, you know that it's about practice, practice, practice. And I bring this up to really focus on the fierce part of this and to consider where we are now, because a lot of people are suffering at the moment. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of fear. And it's been interesting for me to be outside of the US where a lot of that is happening. It's happening globally. And here's the interesting thing that I say to my American brothers and sisters and siblings here. What you are experiencing now, most people on this planet experience all the time. So welcome to the world, in essence. And that's not to be condescending, but that's to really put into perspective. This is why we have practice. This is what people have been preparing for this moment. For for those who are meant to be guides for what is possible. The system is dying. What we're seeing at this moment, the way I interpret it is, it's like someone on their deathbed doesn't want to go and is just fighting and pulling out the tubes and making it miserable for everyone around them. And it's an oversimplification of what I'm saying now, but in a sense, what we're seeing is a reaction to what I believe has been emerging now for time, which is that this planet is ready and has been preparing for a more global unity, for principles that do align with our highest values of respect, belonging, dignity, freedom, and collaboration. And if you're feeling triggered by what I'm saying now, and if there's a lot of activation, let that cycle through you. Just let that be there. That's part of this process. And the question is, how are we stepping into that? So last time I spoke very emphatically about this idea, we have to take responsibility. None of us are exempt from how we got here and what our role is in the consequences for our shared future. We're all involved with that. And what will it take to get us to be more active? So what I'm noticing in Europe is that there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of instability, and it feels exciting to me. It reminds me of the 80s when I was in Europe, when there was a lot of protests and rebellions against nuclear armament in Europe between the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, and which led to the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. It was also a very volatile time. And look what it produced. It brought about change. Now, that's not the last result, but that was a moment. I'm feeling that same energy in Europe at the moment. That, of course, there's fear and of course there's apprehension, but at the same time, there's also, I feel a creative energy that where anything is possible. And that's why I'm excited to be spending more time in Europe, in Italy, in the Netherlands, and other parts of Europe to bring the fear civility work to help people dialogue. Because there's a lot of polarization, animosity happening in Europe. A lot of people who are not informed, who are voting and making decisions that if they really were informed may not make. And that's what we're seeing playing out in the US, certainly. And there's a lot of pain. And the fierceness of our, I guess the invitation is to consider more what's the fierceness in our compassion? How does fierceness bring us into action? What can we do to act? And last time I talked about that, I offered 3 choices. If you want to be an instrument of peace, an instrument of support, an instrument of helping us through the chaos, you can be a refuge. You can say, I am going to make sure I create a safe space for others, because some people, that's all they need right now. Or you can be a soother, that some people really are in pain and need soothing. You can do that. Or you can be a transformer and be part of the transformation that's occurring. You can do all 3. You can do one of the 3. You can do 2 of the 3. But we won't see transformation if there aren't enough transformers. And what does that mean? And I guess my invitation in this fierceness is to say, how can you up your game in what you are doing to be of service to others at this time? And to consider that a lot of the dialogue is focused on these very extreme polarizations that aren't accurate. So part of the resilience is to make sure you're staying centered, that you're not stuck in your reptilian brain where you're in fight, flight, freeze and everything is a threat, that you have access to your prefrontal cortex, that you can access your critical thinking. For those of us who are capable of it, we must at this time be discerning in how we receive information and how we share information. That's one step. And how do we then always bring ourselves to our hearts, which means we're tapping into our highest values and operating from there. And I bring that up because part of what I'm hearing from people, a lot of panic people are having, and a lot of the, what's the word? The struggles or the animosity, I guess, is being stuck in these internal polarizations, is to catch yourself every time you think that you're all good and those who are different are all bad. That just is not true. Everyone in that political party is not all bad. You can't prove, if you can prove that to me, please do. And everything you and the people in your party or your side are not all good. And so in a sense, What's holding people back from coming up with solutions and taking action is getting caught in the need to use this person-made construct of good and bad. It's not necessary. It's not productive to spend days or weeks or years getting focused on what's good and bad, what's evil and what's not. It doesn't lead to anything productive. Or right or wrong is to say that I'm all right, everything I believe is the right thing, and anybody else who has a different view is wrong. Or to think that I have to win. It's not a competition. That we're seeing that in a multicultural, multi-class society, multiracial society, it's not possible that there are winners and losers. But that's what we're seeing play out. It's not possible to say all of the beliefs that I have of how human beings should operate, those all have to exist and anything else doesn't. As long as everyone is in a multicultural, multi-class, multiracial society. So those are polarities that are keeping us, I think, that are causing our suffering, but are also keeping us from getting to a place of transformation where there can be change. And another one is to be thinking that this part or this part, this party or this party, this side or this side is 50%, 50-50. It's just not. So I did some research just to statistics. I've always been challenged with percentages, so it took a lot of work for me to figure this out of like, what's the percentage of this, what's the percentage of that? But I'll start with Brexit. Brexit, of course, was the Great Britain in 2016. There was a referendum to vote, do they want to stay in the EU or do they want to leave the EU? The vote was 51% to leave, 49% to stay. So of course, people have in their minds, because that's what we do, we get it's marketing basically, is that we get in our head it's 50-50. But only a certain percentage of the population voted. So in the end, only 37% of the population voted to leave. So it's not 50% that wanted to leave, it's 37%. I bring that up because, well, let me give you the other statistic. The 2024 United States election. Less than 50% voted for Trump, 49%. Less than 50% voted of voters voted for Kamala Harris, 48%. So listen, not even a majority of the voters voted for one presidential candidate or the other. Of the majority of voters was less than 60%. So the number of people that voted for Donald Trump in the United States of America was 23%. 23% of the United States population voted for Trump to be president. So first of all, I bring up both statistics to hopefully help you overcome some of the suffering of thinking there's so many people, but also to think, okay, I've got work that I can do in a good way. If there are 23% of people in the United States who voted for Trump, that means there are 77. Is that good math? 70%, 77% of the population that you can start today to talk to create alliances with. If you don't want Trump to be president, if there's someone here who wants him to be president, welcome. You know, everyone is welcome here. Or if you're listening, but if that's not the outcome you wanted, then I'm offering this as a statistic to empower you to say, there are so many people I can engage with now to create strong alliances with. And I would say I didn't do it in the Netherlands. It's the same thing. It's the same issue. If the majority of people voted for a particular party and a particular leader, if you look at the percentages, it's not 50% or more. And when you look at it from that perspective, you might feel more empowered to say, okay, so it's unfortunate that it went this way, if that's how you feel. And how can I find my power to use this time now to soothe, to offer refuge, and to transform? And as I've been saying for years, and that's the whole core concept and message of the pathway of hope and fierce ability, that the solution or the way out of all of this is finding alliances in surprising places. Strengthen your alliances, fortify yourself, make sure you're strong and resilient, and you can be resourceful and access that great power in your heart for transformation. And then fortify the relationships you have, strengthen them, feed them, nurture them, and then do the difficult, uncomfortable work to reach out to people who are different, who don't share all of the same views, but you can find the common ground that they do believe in basic civilized ways of approaching things. They share your common highest values, and create those alliances. And that, to me, is what's going to help us quicken the process of a system that is dying to allow this new system that is already here to fully blossom. And I want to just leave you with just in terms of the urgency of this. What this means is to overcome our own chronic niceness. And it also means that we do the courageous work that I bring up in the fierce ability work of understanding that my truth does not equal the truth. That the way you're seeing things cannot be exactly how they truly are. Mostly to take care of yourself, especially if you're in a lot of suffering around what you're seeing in the media and things like that. Investigate, be curious, learn from others. And now is the time. So for those of you who have been doing this practice with me for years or doing your own practices, now's the time to really take those practices. And I'll read a quote. I'm going to quote, I bring this up in the book and I bring this up in my TEDx talk just to talk about the urgency of this time. This is the 2021 annual report of the United Nations, our common agenda report of the Secretary General. And what is stated there after it's a report. It's looking at the year and the state of the world. This was 2021. The conclusion is we are at an inflection point in history. We are at an inflection point in history. The COVID-19 pandemic has served as a wake-up call, and with the climate crisis now looming, the world is experiencing its biggest shared test since the Second World War. Humanity faces a stark and urgent choice: break down or break through. The choices we make or fail to make today could result in further breakdown and a future of perpetual crises, or a breakthrough to a better, more sustainable, peaceful future for our people and planet. Break down or break through. The choices we make or fail to make today will lead us in either of those directions. So I choose to be part of the breakthrough. And I'll do whatever I can in all of my fierceness to do that. I don't have to. I want to. I couldn't. For me, I couldn't, because that's the alignment of my values. So I ask you all to take a breath now. Just take a breath. Let that integrate. And I just want to ask you to just think for yourself, what are your highest core values? What would you say your highest core values are? And just think about it for a moment. that you would say that from the way where you with these values that you resonate at your highest. I'll name a few so that you can get an idea of where I'm thinking about this. So just listen for a moment if any of these resonate. What your highest values, your core values, are what would you fight for? Or what do you get most triggered when those values are not being honored? When have you felt most empowered? It could be family. It could be your highest values are community, justice, tradition, beauty, collaboration, accomplishment, success, loyalty, truth, wisdom, love, delight in being, prosperity and wealth, fun. Let's see, what else? Knowledge, service. These are just a few that I'm naming of core values, things that you value most. And I invite you to think of three. And just when you have them, just close your eyes for a moment and just let them flow into your heart. Flow into your heart. Connect with your core. And I believe that when you can really identify what your core values are, not what you aspire towards, not what you hope you would be, but truly what is the core of who you are. You can't not have that. They were always yours, always there. It connects you to your soul. If you can identify them when you're feeling down, when you're feeling disempowered or lacking energy, what I do, and I offer this to all of my clients and all of my students, is take some time, get centered, get in your core, feel your contact points, connect with your heart, take deep breaths, and just take one of them and just try to feel that in your body. It energizes the body. One thing you can do, which I love to do sometimes, is to see each value as like an ember, like a small little piece of fire. And I place that deep in the center of my heart. And then I take deep breaths, and just like you are doing a fire on a campground, is to feel those embers. And then with each breath, it's like blowing into those embers to create a fire, to ignite your heart. That's a practice. And in a world where the whole system is trying to pull you down into the lowest common denominator of human beings, this might be one of the most essential things, is to constantly take a daily practice to remind you of who you are at your best and being a reflection for others to help them remember who they are at their best. So let's take that into our practice. Hold those embers in your heart. As we always do, coming into a seated position where your spine is not straight, where it is straight but not rigid. And then I'd like to hear your reflections after the practice. So I'll take us through the practice, and I'd love to hear your reflections on what I shared, and how you are in your heart. But coming into power sit in a way where you can sit where the most energy can flow through your body. Remember, our definition of resilience is presence, awareness, balance, and flow. In power sit, bringing your attention to your core, your center and your lower belly, the width of 3 fingers below your navel and a third of the way into the body. Center of impulse, gut wisdom, personal power, awareness, From your awareness, become aware of your contact points, the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on and the ground. Feeling the parts of your body making that connection, feeling the stability under you. And as you trust that stability under you, allowing yourself to be held. Another practice that you can take when you're feeling really ungrounded and unfocused and alone or isolated or disconnected is to do just this practice from your core, connecting with your contact points, connecting into the ground, to always remember that Mother Earth is there to hold you. Always. Unless you're in a space station. But then again, she's also holding you with gravity. That's a constant. And the more you can trust and be in relationship with Mother Earth and that constant, the more you can see objectively what's, in an objective way, what's happening around us. Using this practice to come more into the present moment, starting with the self. From your center, become aware of your physical body. Simply listen. Let the body speak to you. Learn its vocabulary. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. Part of how we get disjointed and get into our struggles is by holding on to things, trusting the flow. So physically allowing the sensations to flow. From your center, become aware of the emotional body, really getting a sense of what's your emotional state of being in this moment without judgment. From your center, become aware of your mental body, really objectively observing and being aware of your thoughts, training yourself to understand in a moment-to-moment reality that you're not only your thoughts, there are parts of you that are not your thoughts. Cultivating a deeper relationship with the part of you that observes, that is awareness. From your center, now maintaining that as the basis of this practice, now bringing awareness to your heart or the middle of your chest, where your heart power resides. Dignity, respect, your highest values. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of the part of you that always has access to something larger than yourself. And from your center and from your heart, as you connect to that part of you, what is your connection in this moment to something larger than yourself? Training yourself to have a moment-to-moment experience of connection with Mother Earth and a connection with that which is larger than yourself, the vertical. Allowing this from your center and heart to radiate out into your personal space, filling your personal space with this awareness, right out to the edges of your personal boundaries, in all directions, behind you, below you. And with this awareness from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in. And building on this present moment, staying connected with yourself from your center and from your heart, now expanding your awareness out to your person, to your surroundings. From your center and from your heart, become aware of your surroundings in all directions, placing yourself in a context in this present moment. What is your relationship at this moment with your surroundings? How are you being influenced? And with this awareness of self and surroundings in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Building on this from your center and from your heart with awareness of yourself and your surroundings, become aware of those in this meditation circle. Again, those joining us on the World Wide Web, those joining us around the world in different continents, holding space with us as in their empowered personal space and in their hearts, feeling that connection, noticing that just with your presence and awareness, how you might be influencing others, how they may be influencing you. And activating, taking a breath to activate the embers in your heart of your personal values, to ignite the hearts of those in this meditation circle and receive that inspiration from others. And hold that as you hold that, your heart may be being more ignited, more lit. And stretching that heart muscle as this practice is designed to do, to hold more beings in your heart with fierce compassion. From your center and from your heart, become aware of all human beings. First, beginning with those human beings you would label loved ones. And understanding that the label is a mental construct. We already know that we're all interdependent and interconnected, yet we still hold on to these viewpoints of those who are our allies, our loved ones. Notice who arises in your heart. What faces do you see or groups of people? And as you stand or sit face to face with them, from your core, your personal power, connect with their core. From your heart, connect with their heart. And simply be with them as you awaken the flames of your personal values in your heart. Let yourself be seen by them. Imagine them looking at you with an open heart, seeing you in your highest, radiating your core values. Nothing to do, simply to be. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label strangers. Who arises in your heart? The perhaps more than 7 billion that could possibly arise in your heart. From close by, a neighbor, to across the world. And as you stand or sit face to face with them, connecting from your personal power and theirs, and your heart and theirs, igniting your personal values in your heart, let yourself be seen. Increasing the practice, stretching the muscle a bit from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings you would label adversary. Who arises in your heart? What faces do you see? Be courageous, be honest. How many arise in your heart at this moment? What practices would you need to do to maintain a capacity to stand or sit face to face with them, connecting from your personal power, your core with their core, your heart with their heart? And in what capacity do you have in this moment to activate those core values in your heart, and as they observe you, radiate that out to them? Let yourself be seen, even by your adversaries, or even by those you would label adversary. Allow energy to flow and emotions to flow. And take a moment and observe all human beings. Start again with loved ones, and just from your heart, as you look into their eyes, all of them, and from your heart, just ask the question, will you ally with me? And turn to the strangers that you've mustered up in your heart, and with true integrity from your heart, will you ally with me? And now turn to your adversaries, and just as an experiment, see what happens from a place of safety and empowerment, asking the question from your heart to theirs, will you ally with me? And notice if there's any shift, not only in you, but in them. Imagine every human being asking that question, from our highest values, can we ally with each other? And imagining that radiating out to all creatures on the planet, to the trees, the rivers, the rocks, to Mother Earth herself. And with that awareness, take a deep, deep breath to anchor that experience deep in your whole system. Allowing all human beings to flow into your heart as they kind of mesh in and meld in with your highest values, the flames of your highest values, whatever they may be. Bringing your awareness now back to those in this meditation circle. And an internal bow to everyone who has joined you in this practice. Acknowledging their highest core values. Allowing those in this meditation circle to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surroundings, showing gratitude for your surroundings that you are in, allowing that to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself. And using this practice, the fire in your heart, to ignite all parts of you. In this time in our human history. All parts of you ask the question, are you ready? Are we ready to ally with each other? And allowing this practice, the benefits of this practice to seep into every cell of your body, igniting every cell, into your organs, nurturing your organs, healing your organs, into your nervous system as a way to remember this. And as a way to close this practice, let's take one final breath. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Look around the room, look at your own body, stretch your body, shake your body. So we had a chance I offered some viewpoints. We set our motivation. I'm grateful for your listening. We did our practice, and then we have a chance to reflect. And I'm curious to hear from you. Some of you are doing such remarkable work in the world and are holding such remarkable space for so many. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I brought up in the practice, or anything else that's coming up for you. Just unmute and share.
Joe, the hardest thing for me to take on is your often stated the breaking down of the old and the emergence of the new. And I need guidance because that suggests that you believe that there is an emergence of a new, which is a positive. And I am not experiencing that. And the experience of destruction and how easy it is to have a cudgel or a machete or whatever it is to destroy, and the act of rebuilding is so arduous and time consuming. Could you help me understand how to get over that sense of being overwhelmed?
Yeah, you have 6.5 hours. I can do. And I would love to hear from others. I mean, it's a big request to help you get over that. I mean, I'm involved with communities. There are people on this on this session who are part of communities where there are people who are devoting their lives to the restoration of rivers and nature. There are global communities that are working towards that are creating laws and charters to protect rivers and to protect the environment, to protect human rights. There are organizations around the world, and there are individuals who are committed to global unity, who are working towards peace. There are still peacekeeping organizations out there. I have faith in young people who don't buy into the old system, who are much more connected to nature and to. So I guess I'm gonna keep coming back to nature. Um, who are not who understand that a holistic approach to life and happiness is, if not more important, just as important as earning your first $1 billion. This is real. There's still I'm invited. Well, I've been invited to submit. I'm probably going to be speaking at a conference in Italy, in the south of Italy, this spring, called the Supranational Democracy Conference. These are people around the world who have for years have been working together lawyers and judges and activists to change our constitutions that are to be more humane and to actually transcend this idea of nation. That's some of the things that I can offer. Does anyone have others?
For me, one of my 3 highest core values is respect. So when I find myself in a situation where people are pissing and moaning about the government, the destruction, and so forth, and I'll say, I just listened to an 1.5-hour interview with Steve Bannon. Whoa, oh no, how could you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And so then I'll tell them what I learned about the man and where he's coming from and what his perspective is. And there's no vitriol at all. And without anyone not doing this, they just sit there and their jaws drop open. They have no idea that they had completely shut off from the possibility of maybe a different perspective isn't the evil access that we imagine that it is. So for respect, demonstrating respect is pretty much how I find myself opening up with people. So thank you for encouraging me to identify my 3 core values. They've kind of shifted over the last several years, and right now respect is at the top. So
Okay.
thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, it would be fun that everybody, before we end, that everyone could at least get on mute and let us know what your highest core value is. That's fun. But Barbara, does that offer a different way of looking at it at least?
Well, Kate, I respect your ability to do that.
Well, when it was suggested to me, I thought, oh my God, okay, you know. I also listened to Robert Kennedy Jr. And, you know, this is an environmental activist. He cleaned up the Hudson River. He sued Trump twice and won because he wanted to put golf courses on both sides of the river, and was completely just working on the environment until a woman approached him with the additives in vaccines. That's kind of what drew him into that whole thing. I had no idea. I
Yeah.
had no idea. So, yeah, it's just a different, some of his ideas might be a little wacky from my perspective, but the guy does his research, that is for sure.
Yeah, and that Kate, what you're doing is you're speaking to what I was saying, is that it's not 50-50. It's not all this or all that. And Barbara, I would suggest, since you're so connected with England, is watch BBC News, watch other news outlets, and because a lot of the things, like I say, I'm connected with these communities that I've mentioned, with that are committed to global healing. Find ways to that the media is not going to present that because it's not sexy for them. It's not profitable, but it's out there. So just, I guess, investigate that more. Yeah, thank you.
Joe, if
Dean?
I may. So I've had a couple of the past years, I've been very closely involved in the caregiving community because of a personal caregiving situation I had with my sister, who's now passed. And what I learned from grief counselors, from hospice caregivers, is when you're struggling, and I compare what you said, Joe, was very helpful because I aligned with it immediately. What we are all grieving. I mean, there are lots of lots of emotions, anxiety, and fear, and anger, and separation, but it's grief. We're grieving all of that, and the change that Barbara mentioned and Kate talked about the way she dealt with it. I learned, and this was almost universal from all the communities I've interacted with over the past few years, there are 3 things that you can do. We can't go out and create or overthrow our government and have a new leader if that's what makes us most emotional or angry. But we can care for ourselves, we can care for our loved ones, and we can care for our community. And I think that's a great start. And it's in different words, Joe, that's how you started out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's been very, very helpful to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that, Joe, because some of the anxiety I've had is exactly what you're saying, that welcome to the world, United States, right? Like this has happened in so many places, and that is what gives me so much grief, knowing the pain that so many global citizens have been through and will go through when there is a very radical wedge. So one of the things that I learned from my Cuban friends, for example, when they had to leave everything behind, like in a moment's notice, was the strength of community. So one of the reasons that kept them very separated was the very specific government, their plot to tell people that their neighbors were their enemies.
Yeah.
And that their neighbors would tell on them to the government, and they would be sent to the Cuban gulag where they would suffer. So my desire right now is building community and making sure that people that may feel alone know that they're not alone, that there's a lot of us that are in disagreement with this turn towards fascism, and that we are here for each other. So, so thank you so much, because your theme today was exactly what I have been pondering and meditating on for the last few weeks, and talking with people that have to leave their countries in horrific situations, like my colleague that had to leave Uganda. Anyway, so the thing that they all have in common is that the governments would impose a lack of community. And I think that that's really important for us to maintain and keep that flame alive for us in this country, in the United States right now, but also globally. You know, we're here for Ukraine as they fight for their freedom, and we're here for communities that care about doing good.
Yeah.
So thank you, Joe. And
Thank
thanks.
you, Mayra. Gracias, gracias. What's your highest core value?
Community, and then
Community.
knowledge. Yeah.
Okay. Jean, what's yours? You spoke already, so man.
So it was a toss-up between, it was a tie at the top, service, which I find, it feels like a gift to me to have service, and friends and family.
Okay, great. Robert, since we're there, what's yours?
Well, I loved your meditation, and really, 𝗵𝗵 came. Anyway, my three are family, community, and climate. And and one of the images I had in the meditation, we've all seen flocks of birds just kind of knowing where they're going, but always staying together, and not knowing who the leader is, and maybe there is no leader, but or a school of fish, the same thing. That's such a beauty. It's just imagery that I focused on, and that's, I guess that's the goal of where we want to be, but I just liked it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Claudia, what are your thoughts? I'm curious. You don't have to share. You can say, Joe, I don't feel like sharing.
I was deep in the middle of the first half of the meditation when I was called out to look into something at the house. So kind of shook me a little bit, but so thinking about my, well, you know, I'm part of one of those agencies that has been dissolved very much in public. And so speaking with one of the local employees from Eastern Europe, and what he said to me just stuck in here. I'm Guatemalan, so we've also been through a lot, like you've been talking about. But one of them said to me, we're going to get through this. We've been through so much crap in our lives, and we've come out of it. And he's from, like I said, Eastern Europe, former Yugoslavia, and part of the countries. And that made me, there's like a reality check. I was like, this will pass also. It's just going to look different on the other end, of course. But it's just a matter of building resilience, building community. For me, being resilient has been what I'm working on. And my core values, gratitude is the first one that jumped out. And I'm working, like Barbara, this may help you. I'm working on being more grateful for the things that I have around me. And then hopefully from there, we will be expanding and looking at things less dramatically, if you will, part of what Kate was saying. So thank you for this practice. It's really helping me become stronger.
Thank you, Claudia. Gracias. We're at the top of the hour, but I can go on for a little bit longer. I would like to hear everyone's core value, or if anyone has any more, briefly want to share any reflections. Mika, she's the death doula. She's the person who works with the dying. So it's really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
My three were top three: honesty, connection, and then came spiritual growth. And when that popped up, there was no need to work so hard. So I love that. And in the meditation, you asked the with the strangers. Oh no, I tuned in with the strangers were the people that didn't vote. So I could, they popped up, and I could align with them, and that was great. And then the adversaries, and you ask, can you align with them? And then I ask myself, do I want to? Is it safe enough for me now? And my answer is not yet. So
Okay.
I am not able to align with them now. And then I thought, maybe honesty is the first of my.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is where you become strategic, the strategy of the heart. It's important that you're safe, right? So if you say, I can't ally with them, you have to remember that there's 8 billion people on the planet, and how many of them are adversaries? You've still got plenty of people that you could be allying with before you even get to the adversaries.
Yes. So I start with the non-voters.
Okay.
That are a whole lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Yeah. A lot of people. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in real quick?
Will say my core value at the moment is integrity. And the part of the reflection for me is I have two very dear people in my life who admitted they were actually relieved that Trump had won, even though they were not Trump supporters. And I think are now holding an awful lot around that. So.
Okay, thank you. Cindy?
Service, justice, and community are my top three at the minute. Really working heavily on the community part in my service, and showing up at the State House to try and keep books from being banned here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. 𝗵𝗶_ཧ_Henk?
Well, justice for everybody, not just for the one who wants to make it just for themselves. And respect for everybody and service to individuals and to community.
Nice. Thank you. Barbara, do you want to share yours?
I'm on the community spectrum.
Okay. Great. Olivia, do you want to jump in, or are you busy with other things? I think she's busy with other things. Okay.
What
So
are yours, George?
no, George said his. He said integrity. Did you have?
Yes, integrity is really my top one at the moment.
For me, it's truth. Truth is mine. That's and service is a close second, but the truth is mine, definitely. Well, it makes sense that we gather, right? When I listen to all the core values, it really makes sense. I think it's lovely. And it's attractive, right? Many of you who understand the heart math and things like that, it's not attractive like, well, you're all very attractive. You're all beautiful people to me. But it's attractive like a magnet, right? When you can activate your heart, it's attractive. And when your heart is resonating from your core values, you will attract people with those same core values. So it sounds like you all have good strategy and plan of the to-do list for the coming time of who you're going to align with. Mostly take care of yourself. As always, this is happening once a month. I don't ask upfront any money, but I just put links in the chat. If you'd like to make a donation for this from your heart, it's just an act of generosity. Feel free to. You don't have to. Or you can purchase books. That's also could be a strategy, is get people to learn about respectful confrontation and fierce civility as a way of learning how to communicate. Or get your Occupy Here merchandise. Have a big thing on your heart that says Occupy Here. These are possibilities. And there's also links for upcoming events. If you haven't seen my TEDx talk, A Cure for Chronic Niceness, if you haven't seen it 12 times, watch it a few more times. And there's an enormous amount of, get on our mailing list and our website. So those are links there for you. Let's think about this energy that we've generated. This is life enhancing, what the energy we've generated. Let's focus it and dedicate it to where we think it's needed best. First, I'd like to offer it to Jean's sister and her journey that she's been on, who's recently passed or has passed. I don't remember her name, I'm sorry.
It's Patricia, and she passed July 15th of last year.
Okay, so holding
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Of course. Any people in your life who could use a little bit of this mojo, a little bit of this energy from us? That more and more people awaken in their hearts their highest values, and that cuts through and pierces through a lot of the false polarities that we hold, which is what's causing the isolation. Finding our power. And may all governments govern from a place of wisdom and compassion, as opposed to fear and greed. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Feel free to get in touch. We're back in a month. If you can think of a person or two that you think might resonate with this, please let them know about this and bring them along. And I look forward to seeing you again. Be well.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Bye.
Ciao.
Enjoy Italy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.